I want you to imagine that you're sitting in a movie theater. It's your birthday, and you have been asking to see this movie for months, studying the trailers frame by frame. The theater goes quiet. You're sitting next to your mom, and then you hear
darkness. That's the first thing I remember. It was dark, and it was cold, and I was scared. But then I saw the moon. It was so big, and it was so bright. It seemed to chase the darkness away. And when it did, I wasn't scared anymore.
The movie is Rise of the Guardians. And this is the movie, above all else, that inspired me to go into film. Everything about this movie inspired me. The writing, the characters, the sets, the lighting. But the things that inspired me the most about Rise of the Guardians are the beautiful opening scene and the foil characters, Jack and Pitch. So, we just witnessed the beginning of the gorgeous opening scene. There we go, right there, my heart. And something that I love that the filmmakers did about this is that the hook sets up one of the most single important things to give your hero, which is undeserved misfortune. In this scene, Jack finds out that he is invisible. No one can see him or hear him, and everyone walks through him. It's almost like he doesn't even exist. This is a beautiful example of undeserved misfortune. Jack goes 300 years like this. For 300 years, he has been like this, stuck, always on the outside as a spectator. This creates sympathy and empathy in the audience. We side with Jack. Who would want this fate? We want answers just as much as he does. We understand his personal goal. He wants to be believed in, which is the only way anyone will ever be able to see or hear him. The moment Jack finds his memories and remembers that he saved the life of his sister and drowned saving her made me cry when I described the scene again to my mom after we watched the movie. I was writing my first book at the time, and Jack reminded me of my main character and his sister. He sacrifices himself for his sister as well. The depth of Jack's grief and loss of identity deeply impacted me. A lot of my protagonists struggle with their powers or things that they hate about themselves. And like Jack, they come to terms with their powers and find healing in their identity and in rejecting the lies that others say about them, which is a predominant theme in Rise of the Guardians, as exemplified through my favorite character, Pitch Black. So foil characters. Here's our hero, Jack Frost, and our villain, Pitch Black. What I love about Pitch is that if he had chosen differently, he would have ended up like Jack. Conversely, if Jack would have made different life choices, he would have ended up just like Pitch. I also love how the sets reflect Pitch's isolation. The DreamWorks team talks about Pitch's lair and how they wanted it to reflect his personality, that his main weapon is fear. So they set his lair in a drowned Venice. I think this concept art is super epic, and the sets look almost as epic as this. But personally, if I had been the writer, I would have redeemed Pitch. He and Jack are the deepest and most fascinating characters in the cast, and it would have been really cool to explore them deeper. And this is the scene, the midpoint, that had the greatest influence on my life.
Looking for something? Don't be afraid, Jack. I'm not gonna hurt you. Afraid? I'm not afraid of you. Maybe not. But you are afraid of something. You think so, huh? I know so. It's the one thing I always know. People's greatest fears. Yours is that no one will ever believe in you. And worst of all, you're afraid you'll never know why. Why you? Why were you chosen to be like this? Well, fear not. For the answer to that is right here. Do you want them, Jack? Your memories? Everything you wanted to know in this little box. Why did you end up like this? Unseen, unable to reach out to anyone. You want the answers so badly. You want to grab them and fly off with them, but you're afraid of what the Guardians will think. You're afraid of disappointing them. Well, let me ease your mind about one thing. They'll never accept you. Not really. Stop it! Stop it! After all, you're not one of them. You don't know what I am. Of course I do. You're Jack Frost. You make a mess wherever you go. Why, you're doing it right now. What did you do? More to the point, Jack. What did you do?
Pitch is a beautifully written villain. Jude Law plays him exquisitely. Everyone's greatest fears. That's one thing I always knew, says Pitch. I love that concept. How depressing would it be if someone had that power, knowing everyone's greatest fears and torments? What would that do to a person? And the filmmakers begin to show this in Pitch, in his personality, and even how the lighting lights up parts of his face, even down to the textures. They made a non-human skin for him so light wouldn't interact the same way that it does with Jack. I mean, it's just epic. This scene, the canted angles, the shots, the way that Pitch drops Jack through the shadows and teleports him everywhere, then surrounds him in shadows, his voice is surrounding him. It feels like we are trapped in fear, along with Jack. In conclusion, I have always wanted to tell stories through film, but this was the film, sitting in the theater as the credits rolled, that made me go, this is what I want to do. I want to make movies like this, so kids can know that they are special, that their imagination is a gift, and that God loves them. Even for my films that are for an older audience, I still want my audience to feel the same depth and joy that this movie gave me. A movie with beautiful characters, with deep struggles, who point to someone bigger than themselves.